Hello, and welcome to the Fade to Grey podcast. In this episode, we talk to director and filmmaker Elliot Kew. I've known and respected Elliot for very many years, and we started together in post-production in London. In this episode, we sit down and talk about our early days in post-production, Elliot's first forays into film directing, pitching films, moving into documentaries, getting your first broadcast commission, talking about his film and TV career, and being part of the BAFTA-winning production crew on the show Grand Designs. I hope you enjoy this first part of our interview, and please do like, subscribe and share. All the best. We first met in a post-production company called Todd AO in Camden.
Yeah.
And I had graduated from uni, and I went to work in the audio department. I was the sync monkey, doing all the sound sync for all the rushes and things like that. And you can tell your story. What were you doing?
Well, I was in the telecine, so I was helping a guy who I think still does he still does grading actually, called Kevin Horsewood, and my job was to take the rushes, and stick them on this machine and thread it through the gate, and then spool it onto the take-up spool, and then that was kind of it really. I just had to make sure it was clean, the gate was clean, and then he would grade it. He'd grade the rushes, look at it and grade it, and the client would be in the room as well, so I'd sit there, and often I'd just chat and ask questions. And back then as well, it was like a windowless room, as it would be for a grading studio, but everyone was smoking, and so everyone was. It's now something you'd never see nowadays, of course, and everyone would be puffing away and just excited about seeing rushes, and we even had we'd have the kitchen outside, and you'd order food, and it'd be freshly cooked for you, and food would come in, and it's just a world away from how post-production is now. And most of it now is remote. I don't even see my editor. It's just completely different. Obviously grading still happens. I haven't been to a grade for a while, but it's that still goes on, and is obviously non-film, mostly non-film now, unless you run a high-end commercial or high-end feature film. Most of it is digital, and all the grading I've done since then is digital. But that was a world away. That was a long time ago. It's probably like 25 years or something. And I enjoyed it actually. I enjoyed that initial start, and seeing rushes, talking to DOPs, usually a DOP in there, the guy that shot it, and talking to the director as well, and just getting some feedback and getting some insight into how they achieved what they achieved. The other benefit to me working there was that I got to know the guys in the lab, because it was the old Filmatic lab that moved there from, I think, Notting Hill. So they'd moved in-house to the basement and set up this processing lab, like proper film processing. And the guys that ran it were called Terry Polfer and Bob Hapgood. And they were very helpful. So when I started shooting stuff, directing short films, on my first one, I got it processed there for free because I'd got to know them, and I said, would you be able to run this through the processing? And they go, well, we could do it after hours, but it's no problem. And I just bought the guy a bottle of whiskey, and that was how much it cost, whereas it would have cost, I don't know how much it would have cost, probably like £1,500, £2,000 or something like that, maybe, to get it processed. I've no idea, but it would have been a lot of money.
Yeah, it was an incredible place, wasn't it? Because when I was working in the audio department, the head of the audio there, well, certainly for the sound sync, was Matt Waghorn, and when I arrived, they were just about to design the new sort of little studios and all that kind of stuff, which I had a little bit of a hand in as well. And so we put the sound to the rushes that came in, obviously. So we would sit and wait for telecine, all the film rushes to come in and dev'd first, And we got up to Telesydney then, we'd been sitting around for a little while, but, some stuff would be coming through and we'd be watching the rushes getting graded as well. It was an incredible process on the old Poggle machines, which with the Enterprise to start out with light color wheels and all that kind of stuff. Incredible sort of science, and the changes they could make was incredible. But I remember doing, when I was starting getting small short films in, I was like kind of helping other filmmakers, like getting them VHSs from the old sort of bins that we'd be using for copying to send out rushes and stuff. And I would be doing audio sort of sync for them on the side as well, like not during like working hours as well, but it did get a little bit. I think I helped quite a lot of filmmakers. Maybe too many. So
maybe too many.
Maybe too many. So I left after.
Well, help enough.
I was maybe encouraged. I loved my time at Todd. I really did. I absolutely loved it. It was like a complete school, and the guys, everyone, in-house engineers, everyone was so friendly, and they would, all you'd have to do is ask a question, and that would, you would sort of. I remember sitting an editor who was a BAFTA award-winning editor, and he was cutting a series up on the third floor. He had his ones with Jake, I think I remember. And he let me sit in because I thought, oh my god, this guy's like almost like I remember how revered these kind of editors were, like, and he let me sit in, and I sat in one session. I was too kind of like shy to sit in any more because I thought, oh, he's not going to want me there and all that kind of stuff. So, but it was incredible what I learned about editing, and even from that one session. So it was an incredible sort of thing coming up. And I remember you like want to shoot your own things and write and shoot your own things. How did you get into that? What was all that about?
Writing, shooting. Well, I knew I wanted to make a short, and so I sat down with a friend of mine, and we got a bunch of post-it notes, and we just mapped out the structure of the story. It was called Nail Biter, and we worked it out quite quickly, actually, in a day, the structure. And then I sat down and wrote it in not very long, actually. It's probably like a week or something, maybe a bit longer, 10 days. And then he was working at a production company in Bristol. And I said to him, why don't you ask your boss if he'll give us some money? But just, I tried a few other places. I'd written a few letters to people, that dates it as well. Like I'd written some letters to people. I mean, you don't write letters anymore. And then incredibly, his boss, he was obviously a very generous person and was in a stage in his life where he did corporate video. So he'd earned a bit of money. He had a bit of money in the bank. And I think because Barry, the co-writer, was an employee of his, I think he just saw kind of that we were kind of passionate about the story, and he thought, I think I might take a punt on these two guys. They're working together. I really trust this one guy, Barry. He works for me, and I like this other guy. And he said, give me a budget. How much do you need? Which very rarely happens. And I did a budget because it was going to be shot on film, and I did a budget, and it was £13,000, which was in 1999. So that's probably quite a bit of money now, quite a bit more. And he literally, I went down to Bristol. I remember driving down to Bristol, and Barry said, "Oh, I think he's going to, I think he's going to give us some money." And I thought he was going to give us like two or three grand. And we got to the office, and he opened his checkbook, and he wrote a check out for £13,000. And and I thought, oh my God, this is amazing. That's never happened ever happened again. I thought, my God, this is how it's going to be. It's incredible. You just ask for money and someone writes you a check. And so this guy just gave us the full amount that we wanted. And then it was like full steam ahead then. And I got a production designer who'd worked on the Fast Show. I can't remember how I got her, which was this old sketch show that was on British television. And we sat down, we worked out the design, and I got a location which was this really incredible old disused it was called an asylum. You'd call it like a mental health home now or something. But it was a dilapidated Victorian house. It's gigantic. It was in the woods. There were loads of big rooms in there. It was being used and loaned out to do pop videos and that kind of thing. And so we hired that, and I got a really good first AD, and we planned it. We fixed the dates down. I auditioned the actors. I got this really good boy who was 11 called Sam, and he was in Bristol as the young Vic, and he did an audition for me and Barry, and we really liked him. He was really good. And then his mum or his uncle chaperoned him, so we needed an adult to be with him at all times. And we fixed these dates. It was 4 days. It was quite cold. We were inside. We had lights, so the lights heated up the place inside, so we weren't that freezing. But we dressed the set the day before, so it was all good to go. And then we went and shot it over 4 days on film on Super 16 millimeter, which is unlike video. Obviously, it's every time we were rolling, we were using up money. We were using up film stock, which meant it was going to cost money. So I had to plan it, be much more efficient in my planning and my shot lists, and make sure that I wasn't overshooting because of the cost. And it was good discipline in that sense, because it made me think about what the next shot was, what I needed, if I definitely got what I needed to cut together, that sort of thing. And as it turned out, we did all right, actually. There were a few pickup shots we needed to get, but not many. And we went back, I think, about two or 3 days later, and got about 5 or 6 pickup shots that we needed with the main actress in there. And that was it. And then we went straight to the lab and got it processed. And then I was in the edit, which was cutting at M2 Facilities, which was in Camden. And I got an editor friend of mine who I was at college with to cut it. And that was how that turned out. And then sorry, what was the question? I can ramble on about it, but
oh no, that was exactly the question. That was exactly the question. How you got it started. So then, after Nail Biter, you did the box.
Then I did the box. So I didn't have any money for that. I had about something like £1,000 or something. So it was a very different kind of film, and we shot that on. I had the same DOP. We shot it outside, which meant we didn't need lights, and it was the same location, so we didn't need any transport, and it was a minimal cast. I got my girlfriend and housemate to do the catering, so there's no cost there. It's literally like really stripped down. And we used a camera, again, it was shot on film, but it was it was Super 16 again, and we got Panasonic to loan us a camera. So again, there was very little or minimal cost, and we we shot it in literally the same actual location. We didn't have to go anywhere. It was right against the wall of the Bank of England, which is a very unusual place to get permission for. We had to be quite far.
Because the city was empty the weekend, is that right?
Yeah, so I shot it on Saturday and Sunday across 2 days, and anyone who knows the City of London, which is the square mile around St. Paul's Cathedral, is literally a square mile. The whole place just empties on the weekend. There's nothing. It's like a ghost town. There's nothing around there. So we were in a back street off Banks, near Bank Station, and there's no traffic there, no pedestrians. It's not a thoroughfare, so it was very quiet. We didn't have any problem with public, and we didn't have any problem with weather either, amazingly. So it was the same. It was kind of constant light, and we shot that in black and white. The previous film was black and white. This one was black and white as well. And it was both of them. Both films got reviewed in a big magazine at the time called Total Film, which was kind of like Empire magazine, which I think Total Film is still around, actually. Anyway, they both got reviewed in that.
I think they have. I think
have they folded?
I think we've just folded because I was talking to
Yeah,
a friend that I'm probably going to be talking to as well, and he used to
yeah,
work in publishing, and they had Total Film and they had Future Music as well, and I think both have
that's a
just
shame.
it is a shame, but
They had a section at the back which was called Independence Day, and it just highlighted low budget short films and feature films. And I got in both times, both films got in there and were reviewed. I was interviewed by, I think it was a guy called Cam Winstanley, and he interviewed me and asked me questions about the films, and they both got printed and like with a big. I got like almost the whole page on nail bites because it's quite a striking image, and I think that is good. It was a good lesson in terms of when you make a film, you really need to have an image that represents the film and what you're trying to say, like that encapsulates and sells the product, which is what it is. It's a product. You're selling a story, an idea. And so you need an image that's going to be strong enough and capture people's attention. And I think that's probably why my third film didn't do so well, because it wasn't as strong, the image, to sell it, to get people's attention. So they go, oh, what's this? I want to watch this. Because if you imagine you're just barraged with 200, 300, 400 films to watch, you're gonna go for the ones that grab your attention immediately, and some of the others are going to fall by the wayside, unfortunately.
I think that Golden Globus, those filmmakers in the US filmmakers that just made hundreds and hundreds of films, they used
Yeah,
to like flag it by making film posters first.
yeah,
And
yeah,
get really, really nice poster design, and then they would sell
yeah,
it just basically on that. That's incredible, but they were total cowboys. But I mean, they got loads of stuff made. It's made.
yeah. I mean, I've always admired people like that. It's because I'm not very prolific. I sort of stopped making short films back then and moved into documentary. And I've always struggled to write and come up with ideas. Oh, I'm good at coming up with ideas. It's just following them through. And I find the creative process, it's a very difficult process for me. And, it's a constant struggle for me, that really. I think some people, I'm quite envious of people that can just go and make a short and then just go and do it, in a weekend. And whereas for me, I sort of put obstacles in my way and that prevent me from doing things, from finishing things, really, which is a sad fact, but that's just the way it is.
I mean, I think obviously that's maybe something that you're being modest or cruel to yourself, because if you look at your IMDb page,
Yeah.
first of all, you are a BAFTA winner.
Yes. Yeah.
I
Yeah. That's
never
true.
mentioned that. It's not even, but you won a BAFTA for what was it?
Well, it's grand design, so it's one of those. It's a BAFTA win, but it's for the production team. So I was part of the production team. So even though it's not like it was presented to me, it's sort of given to the production team as a group, as a group. You know, if you look at it, it's to the production team. I was part of the production team, so yeah,
Right.
I am being modest, but yeah,
Yeah, I know they are, because that's just what you are. But you care massively about quality, and I know that
yeah,
your work ethic is incredible, and you're fastidious, and you want the best for production. And so you're not one of these people that will just go, oh yeah, fuck it, we'll just go out and do it over the weekend. You do want to plan it. You do want to, because you want to get the
yeah,
possible.
yeah,
You
yeah.
mentioned that you went into documentary as well after short film.
Hmm,
Obviously different, completely different medium, but the skills that you
hmm.
had from working with film and going forward into documentary, uh, obviously it is a different type of thing, but that was a good schooling for you. What was the first thing that you did, documentary wise?
The first thing I did was actually not commissioned. It was a thing I did about the circus, which is when I got Mick Johnson to cut something, and that was just a set of four very short 3 minute or 4 minute films. And I tried to, went to the circus and I shot four films about four different characters, and I took it to Channel 4. I sent it to Channel 4. Mick cut it really well, and but they didn't want it. They didn't want to buy it or anything. So I got in touch with a woman who worked at 2 4 Television and gave us some ideas. And she said, Channel 4 really like one of these ideas. And can you write it up? Can you expand on it? Can you do me like an A4 page, a one pager, just explaining what you're going to be doing in this film? And so I put that together. And then she called up about, a week later and said they want to meet, they want to go ahead with a meeting. They really like this idea. Let's go to Channel 4. So I went to Channel 4, and the woman who was holding the meeting was called Jess Search. And she said, the first thing she said was, when I walked in the room, did you make a film called Nailbiter? And I said, actually, I did, yeah. And she went, I love that film. I think that's a great film. And we bought it, didn't we? And I said, yeah, you did. Film 4 bought it. And she went, I love it. I think it's great. Sit down. What do you want to tell me about this film you want to make? It's like, Jesus Christ, this is okay. So I said, well, I want to make a film about redheads, about people with ginger hair, and try and investigate why that is the case, where it comes from, and are we going to be extinct? That kind of thing. It's a little bit of silliness, a little bit of lightheartedness to it as well. And she said, I think that's great, and I think you should be in it, and the experiment should be on you, and you should go on a journey to investigate if you're going to become extinct, that kind of thing. And I said, okay. And she said, yeah, I want you to make it. So I was like, okay, great. So I got this budget to go and make a half-hour film for Channel 4. So leapfrogging all my peers who, were like down doing running and assistant producing and researching and that kind of thing. And I just went straight to directing a half hour for Channel 4 with very little experience, really. But I was helped by the production company. I had to write a script. Obviously, they had to sign it off, which was a learning process in itself. How to put together this script, how to structure it, what the journey was going to be, what the narrative is going to say, the conclusions, what's the overarching message or question. And we did that in 3 or 4 months, and put it together, and then it got pick of the day in all the newspapers, like Critics' Choice. It did really well, and of course that's how we worked together, because you came on board and did an incredible score for it as well. I thought, I'll get this Scottish guy to do the music.
Ginger as well.
Yeah, exactly. We've got to stick together. So,
yeah, absolutely. No, putting anything away, but the mutant MC1R gene.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that was fabulous. Talking to you and sort of feeding through to you the kind of stories that were going to happen in it, and then you were able to somehow, which is still a kind of a little bit magical to me, how you're kind of able to take some words and some themes and then transform that into something that's going to have emotion to it, and a sort of, I don't know, it's quite incredible. And this, you create this music for it, which really works. It really does. Yeah.
I mean, it was a great time doing it, and Roxanna Mossam, the producer, and yourself were really, really open. And it was I really didn't feel that I was allowed to do what I wanted, and I can't remember any rewrites or anything, that kind of stuff. We just kind of put it together. I remember one time though, this is classic. We were looking for something for the very start of the program, and I had like 13 different pieces of music that I write one thing, then I'll go on to the next thing, in a kind of time, like bosh, and then I'll give it to people, and then what they want to take, we'll work on, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Thing I called it spinning, because it was this kind of whirly kind of noise thing. I wasn't going to send it because I was like, oh god, this is horrendous, but I just put it on the end just because it was like numbers of the tracks up. And Roxanna, that's it. That's the start of it. And I was like, you're joking me. I was like, sometimes. you're not the best judge of your own work a lot of the time as well. So it's important to have someone like a producer or someone that's got a different kind of idea of what the production is, to get rid of that and say, oh, that'll actually really work there, from something that was almost.
Yeah.
So yeah, no,
I think it's difficult with music because sometimes you can describe something, but you don't really know what it is until you hear it, and also you don't really know what works until you've got picture with it as well. And sometimes when you put it with the picture, it's not quite there, it's not quite working, and it's got to be like slightly tweaked. It's a difficult thing, a difficult balance to get right.
Yeah, it is, but I think it's working with good people and being open. So it's not like it's just more a total conversation. Oh, I really like that, or and it was that for me when we're working. It just felt like a good time, to be honest. And I still love that music. I've actually used that music in other things quite a lot.
I think you mentioned that. Yeah.
It's used in loads of things actually, and that's the other thing about music. It's even though it was meant for this thing, it has a life after it's been used for something else. That's a great thing about music. You can update it, change it, you can rearrange it, which is wonderful.
I know. I was just going to say, one of the things you hit on there is it's really important, and the more I work, the more I realize how important it is that working with people that you enjoy working with. It might seem obvious, but you don't always get to choose that, and often you're working with people who you just you have to take a job because you need the money, like so often. I think the more work you do, the less that is the case, but you often are thrust into a group of people that you don't necessarily. There might be like one person who is a senior person who you don't see eye to eye with, and that is it creates a difficulty and a struggle, and that can affect the whole experience really in a negative way. So I've turned down work where I've known there were, not often, but like maybe 3 times, where I've turned down a job where I knew there's someone working on that production that I didn't want to work with, either because I'd heard the kind of how they treated people, or I'd worked with them. I'd worked with them firsthand, and I just thought I don't want to work with them again. So that's really important. It does seem obvious, but you don't always get to choose who you work with. But now I sort of tend to only work with people who. This is a really creative process, and it's important you get the balance right. And it's a great thing that we're doing. We should enjoy it. I don't want to work with people I don't want to work with.
Well, that's true. It's difficult. Sometimes it just feels like you're being oppressed. That sounds like dramatic, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some people are just not on your wavelength, and that's a real thing. And I think, like you were saying, if you work with people I think if you get to know the people and you love the people you're working with, it doesn't matter what they are, you can get that done successfully because you all kind of understand each other's vibe, which is a great thing. This was the Fade to Grey podcast with director and filmmaker Elliot Kew. Music featured was from documentary Ginger Nation, directed by Elliot Kew and composed by James Gray for Channel 4. This podcast was produced by Kinetic Studios. www.kineticstudio.co.uk